let's get into 4 downs. Cooper, what should we do if we want to be a part of the program?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
All right. Will Title IX lawsuits follow? I don't think there's any question.
Regarding the House settlements, biggest questions. These are the biggest questions, yes, surrounding the House settlements. And yes, Title IX lawsuits are going to follow because schools, as they should, are going to devote the money based on the sports that generate revenue. Literally a violation of Title IX. So, I mean, I don't know how in the world this wouldn't follow, because while we all agree on principle that, Joey Aguilar should make more money than a softball player, the softball player has a legal right to sue and say, that's not what the law says. The law says I should get as much as he does given Title IX. So absolutely, lawsuits are going to follow.
What's more likely, this isn't a second down, we'll get to that in a second, but what's more likely to happen? Is it that this House settlement is an utter fiasco disaster, or that Title IX goes away? Because we're starting to run this like a business.
Yeah, but see, Title IX doesn't. What's more likely is Title IX gets restructured. And there have been a lot of calls to restructure Title. Look, Title IX has to exist. I think we all want to see like women's high school sports. We want to see women have those opportunities at the high school level and the college level, to be fair. So it's going to exist, but it's going to have to be restructured. And I don't think there's any way you can not restructure it now.
All right. What's next, Caleb?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Second down. What will the roster limits be? Because remember, there is now no longer scholarship limits. There are roster limits. And Texas A&M last year had 143 players on their roster.
How do they manage that?
NIL. Bunch of walk-ons.
Oh. Okay, that's strange to me.
Yeah. Like, remember back in
the Bear Bryant days. Oh, did I just steal that?
I was going to say the Nebraska days, where Nebraska had 300 walk-ons, basically. And they just out-conditioned everybody in college football. Out-conditioned everybody in college football in the 90s to dominate.
Yeah, I don't have any way of guessing. I didn't know A&M's roster was that big.
Yeah.
Gosh. I mean, and again, how do you enforce that? Are you saying no walk-ons?
No. You can have walk-on. There's no scholarship limits. So it doesn't matter who's on scholarship and who's a walk-on. It's just there are roster limits now. So rather than say, because like back in the day, as you know, Dave, you could have, you have 85 scholarship players, but then you could have however many walk-ons you wanted, right? They're saying they'll probably up it to like, you can have 120 players on the team. Doesn't matter how many scholarships you give out, just 120 players, period, end of story.
Good point by Derek. What do they have to say?
Title IX protects women's volleyball shorts.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here.
That's a very good point.
Third down.
What's next, Caleb?
All right, third.
I had a guy that I worked with one time that only dated volleyball players when he.
Really?
Yes.
Do you ever remember the 2004 Olympics where George Bush was like with the beach volleyball team and the Americans, and he did a little thumbs up, and it was right as the volleyball player was like bending over to like grab a volleyball, and it looked like he was thumbs upping her. And the funny thing is, like, if this were Bill Clinton or Donald Trump, I would be like, oh, they're thumbs upping the butt. But like, if it's George Bush, I'm like, no, actually, I think George Bush is a happily married man who like never cheats on his wife. Honestly, I genuinely believe that about Bush.
I was doing a live TV show, and I watched later in the afternoon to see how I did. It was a Sports Source with John Pennington. And I remember this young lady came and she brought a bunch of food. And I looked at the food. It was part of a promotion for a restaurant. And she had the food out there. And I looked at like, looks good. But there on live TV and DVR'd for all time, it looked like I was looking at her rear and going, pretty good. Is the word. I was like starving in all sincerity. All right, Caleb, what's next?
All right, so third down.
Center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
What does this mean for smaller conferences and non-revenue sports? Like, is Group of 5 football just going to die? Because like, if this rule applies to all college football programs, now they can opt in or opt out. If they opt out, they're not going to get any talent whatsoever. They'll be as bad as Division II at the Group of 5 level. If they opt in, they could bankrupt their program. Something's got to give, right?
I think you're going to. I will say this. I'm not sure how many go away or to what extent they go away. but I think you would agree that the days of Appalachian State beating Michigan at the Big House, those are over.
Yeah,
There's
I don't think that's
such a
possible.
disparity between smaller schools and I don't know, does the North Dakota states of the world, do they make it?
That's my question. I mean, I don't know if they do. And here's the thing, you're right. It's gonna get to a point, and I've warned people about this when the playoff expanded happened. You got this automatic bid for group of 5 schools, fine, let them get their little automatic bid and they won't complain. And maybe they'll pull an upset here or there. But Dave, if this goes the way I think it's gonna go 10 years from now, they won't even pull off an upset. They're just gonna get wrecked every time they go to the playoff, honestly. I mean, the gap is gonna be so big.
Okay, let's make this a poll question and dive into this. And I want as many comments as we can get. Does this affect your fandom at all? It's fourth down. Four Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios on Parkside Drive and out on Kingston Pike. They are absolutely unbelievable. You'll be so happy when you drive off that lot with a brand new vehicle. Four Downs brought to you by Ted Russell, the super dealer.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
What's fourth down, Caleb?
Fourth down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Will this new house settlement affect your college football fandom?
Well, we're not the greatest to ask of that. We do this for a living. But I want comments on the message board as much as we can, and let's make that a poll question. Do you believe it will affect fandom?
No. And I think everybody saying that it will affect their fandom is not being honest with themselves. Okay, I'm dead serious on this. If you would let your fandom, if you would turn away from college football because the players you cheer for are now making a few extra bucks directly from the school that's been making millions off them, how much of a college football fan were you to begin with? That's not how this is going to work. It's not going to affect your fandom. When fourth down happened, if Nico Iamaleava, if that saga didn't affect your fandom, nothing will when it comes to player payments. Okay? Because, like I said, on 4th and 1, when Tennessee's playing Alabama, you're not going to worry about how much is Peyton Lewis making. You're going to worry about, is Josh Heupel going to get him the ball in the right play to convert the first down? That's the only thing that's going to be on your mind in October on 4th and 1 when Tennessee's playing Alabama and they have the ball.
I don't know, Caleb. Let's get to the poll question and get some results on that. I really believe that some people, some old school people, not like you and me, but some old school people will, you're talking to somebody who remembers this is not that long ago, some of the hidden racism that was in sports that you can't have. I remember one media member telling me that the '98 team had too many black players, and I was like, "Are you insane?"
That might. I do think that's the least white national championship team of all time.
Yeah, but I mean, so what? I mean, it doesn't really matter. And I actually took a college class one time. Are you familiar with the term stacking?
No.
Okay, well, that was done from kids when they were 7 or 8 years old. They would put black players at running back more often than quarterback because they thought it was a thinking position, which was the most idiotic thing I'd ever heard. I guess what I'm telling you is it hasn't been that long since there's been some really backwards thinking, and I can't help but think that it will affect some people. Long term, no. Derek brings up the greatest point. And this is kind of how I feel. I feel like we discuss this NIL portal and NCAA Congress stuff way more than actual sports. That's my issue. I agree with that. At the end of the day, you're probably right. It continues to grow. The population continues to grow. More fans continue to grow. I just can't help but think there's not going to be some old school people with, in my opinion, some backwards thinking. I think the athletes deserve to get paid and have for the entire time. But Caleb, Can't help that it'll turn some people off. What's our poll question say?
Poll question says 55% say yes, it'll affect their fandom. 45% say no. I understand your point with the old school people, but Dave, let me go to this. You actually went this route somewhat because so talking about race, let's just talk about race back in the 70s for a minute. You and I both know Tennessee integrated pretty early, at Kentucky integrated early, but the Deep South SEC schools were very hostile to integration for their football teams. Very hostile. And Bear Bryant wanted to integrate Alabama, and the administration would not let him, and the fans did not want it to happen. So you know what Bear Bryant did, right?
I don't.
He scheduled a game against USC when Sam Cunningham was at USC, knowing his team was going to get his you-know-what beat. And Sam Cunningham, black player for USC, destroyed Alabama, humiliated them. Alabama recruited their first black player the next year, and then the team was integrated in 2 years. Bear Bryant knew that people may have these old, long-standing principles, but if it comes to trying to win football games on Saturday, they'll throw those principles to the wayside in a heartbeat. So there were racists that were hardcore racists that were Alabama fans, and one day they woke up and they said, I want to win at football. I'm no longer racist. That happened.
Super chat, Timothy, what do you got?
Collective bargaining is better. Okay, I knew it was a bad idea when we started to pay when we started paying a play $1 million and can't throw the ball like Montana or Steve Young and can't read coverages in defense. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But like at the same time, I think collective bargaining helps to a certain degree. People like Nico have to honor somewhat of their contracts to this point.
Well, I mean, listen, to think that Tennessee or any other school has done everything perfectly correct in this massive change in NIL is kidding yourself. Caleb, I mean,
Yes.
there's nobody that's done everything right.
No, there's nobody that's done everything right. And it was hard to figure out. It was hard to navigate from the start. And it's going to continue to be hard to navigate because, again, this is the Wild West and there's no way to regulate it right now. And I don't think it's possible to regulate. This is Las Vegas being founded by the gang leaders of the 1880s.
Tell you what this is going to turn into. It's going to turn into the same thing that I spent the vast majority of my college or my career talking about, and that was NCAA missteps, NCAA violations. It's going to be the same thing. It might have a different acronym and it might have another governing body, but that's where we're going to be. And Derek, to play off your point, what we're going to be talking about in the very near future are those Albert Means situations, because you're going to have, well, let me ask you this. With NIL, are they going to mandate that you actually have to do something to earn the money? Or can I just walk up to a guy and give him $100 because I feel like it?
It depends. Well, that's the thing. I guess that's what the third party is going to regulate to a certain degree. I just think they've opened the door so arbitrarily for them to regulate it that way. I do think you can sign contracts with NIL. I mean, you're allowed to do that. Schools and boosters, many of them were stupid and didn't do it. Because spoiler alert, guys, rich billionaires aren't as smart as you thought they were. And so, I mean, they were jumping into this without any idea. Many of them, I kid you not, and we had Will West talk about it. Dave, I cannot believe some of them thought they were going to get a return on their investment for NIL. I mean, I'm not a business guy. I'm just a regular guy, talking college football on a YouTube channel. And I could have told you from the start, these people weren't going to get a return on their investment for NIL money. And I don't know much about business. So
yeah. Will's been nice enough to point out that I think I'm the only one that was successful in NIL.
Yeah,
literally. And I go back to, I have trouble believing that an athlete in general, just because they're an athlete, should tell me what deodorant to use or anything like that. I also have more of a problem with it being an 18, 19, 20-year-old athlete that's half my age.
Yeah, true. How do they know what deodorant to use?
I mean, I don't walk up to an 18, 19-year-old and go, what kind of car should I buy? So why would I do it just because they're an athlete? What's our poll question? Where are we?
Will this affect your fandom? Now 54% are saying no, 46% are saying yes. So I think that convinced some people, Dave.
You may have. All right. Did we get to the collective bargaining super chat?
Yes, we did.
Got to that. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, to be honest with you, Timothy. Are you just saying in terms of that collective bargaining in the NFL. I don't understand how this is much different.
Yeah, no. Well, what I think he's talking about is like collective bargaining will make it better because it looks like there's some obligations they'll have to fulfill now.